Well, good morning. Oh my goodness. We finally packed a house. COVID is dead, maybe. Uh, Very excited to be here with you all today. Second time speaking at Running Remote. And let's get the obligatory credibility slide out of the way, shall we? We're going to be talking about the future of remote work today. Formerly CEO, actually just a month ago, retired from XT and took it from a small team, and then over more than a decade, built it up into one of the largest fully remote companies. I'm a future of work speaker, and for the last 15 plus years, pretty much just been building remote engineering teams for some of the world's largest brands. And I want to start my talk today probably the same way I'm assuming all of our other speakers are going to start their talks today, which is, of course, talking about an ancient Mayan prophecy, specifically this one. Now, I know you guys here in the front row, you can read that. I know you're well-versed in Mayan culture, you're good. But for the people in the back, I know you want some help reading this, so I'll translate it for you. And what it says is, the apocalypse will be preceded by 3 omens. The first is that mouse jigglers will appear. If you've never seen a mouse jiggler, you are seeing this phenomenal device on the screen. It helps keep yourself looking active on Slack. I hope you make one later tonight. The second omen is that hybrid will become the new normal. And the third omen is that sane human beings with educations will buy an NFT that looks like this for $500,000. Needless to say, I was a little concerned reading this prophecy, as you should be as well, because all of these things have happened in the last year alone. I was very scared about this. I went to the United Nations about it. I said, guys, we got to get to work on the apocalypse. It is coming. They said, please, sir, stop calling. We are dealing with a more urgent concern, something about a climate change. I don't know. It all sounded very dramatic, but the fact remains, the omens have arrived. You know, sane human beings actually did spend $500,000 on this NFT. The mouse jigglers are now here, and hybrid is somehow the new normal. For some of you just vomiting in your mouth just now, hearing that, I'll give you a second. Swallow, digest. Are you good? Okay, just making sure. But let me give you a bad taste of this new normal we are now living in. I took this off of the job description of one of the top tech companies in the world. It said, we are a hybrid-first company, whatever that means, with 3 days in the office, chosen days based on manager approval, or at least half your time in office, with the third Tuesday and Thursday of each month as anchor days, monthly all-hands-in-person meetings, quarterly in-person performance reviews, and up to 2 weeks per year that some workers can work fully remotely, you guessed it, based on manager approval. This hurts my brain to no end, as they say down under. WTF, mate? What is this? This is not normal. This isn't even logical. We have people going into offices now, and their team isn't even there anymore because they've all moved across the country. Let's talk more about this new normal. It's dropping engagement by 4%. People are resigning at record rates. 37% of companies are using always-on camera feeds to spy on people. We now have quiet quitters. This wasn't a thing. We have bare minimum Mondays. Anyone doing that one? Or how about try less Tuesdays? We even have a subreddit where millions of people go every day to talk about how much they hate work because of whatever we've done the last few years. Workers are striking against RTO. Young workers feel isolated, lonely, and ignored. I've been talking to companies, CEOs. They'll tell me, look, we tried going remote, but Zoom can't replace in-person collaboration. Working from home is a disaster. No one feels connected anymore. No one is productive anymore. We don't feel like a team anymore. This is chaos. What did we do? Last time I was here, things were looking good. But I think we're here. This is the Gartner hype cycle. It shows you how hype plays out for any new innovation in the world. And you see, something like NFTs, for example, lots of hype in the beginning, and then reality sets in and we realize maybe not so much value as we thought. And if you're lucky, that's when you enter into what's called the trough of disillusionment. And if you're lucky, you can come out of this slope and build some actual value in the end. The problem is when we think about remote work, last few years, we went up the hype cycle, and now we are down here, except we're not just down here, we've pretty much fallen off of the chart. Companies are looking for any reason possible to act like remote work never happened. They lack confidence primarily, though, because there's just no solutions to the big problems and challenges that they are facing. At least they're not seeing them. And they'll say, look, we know we need to offer remote to retain talent, to attract talent. We know remote's going to be a thing, but we have no idea what we're doing. So here's hybrid, I guess. Hashtag please don't quit. This is chaos, and we need to do something about this as a community. Good news is, this is not the future. And I know this because in preparation for a talk talking about the future of remote work, I decided to shell out the money, and I bought a DeLorean. And I did that because I had to know what brings an end to this chaos so that we can end it sooner. No one wants to spend their day on Reddit all day talking about how much they hate work. We must end this sooner. And I was debating, should I get the phone booth time machine? Should I do the hot tub time machine? How am I going to get there? Got a great deal on a flux capacitor on eBay, so I went with the DeLorean. Got to say, the first few attempts, didn't go so great, but I eventually made it. Made it to the future. It was a fantastic trip. Did some sightseeing. A lot of good things to see in the future. I saw Tom Cruise several times throughout the generations. Turns out he's unkillable. Very good to know. Made some new friends. Got to say, AI takes an interesting turn. But I come back to you now here in Lisbon because I know what we must do to end the chaos and bring back hope to work from anywhere. Quick disclaimer, please don't DM me about lottery numbers or Dogecoin's price in the future. Definitely don't ask me about the year 2068, gets a little hairy. Definitely don't ask about the year 2152, gets even hairier. But no one wants to hear about any of that. That's not interesting. We are here because we need to know what we must do to end the chaos, let's do it, there we go, to build confidence in work from anywhere again. So let's do this. Let us go into the future. Because I want to show you today a future without chaos. Because the future isn't complicated like we've made it today. It isn't chaotic like we've made it today. But we do have a lot of work to do still to build that future. And the reality that we first must accept is that work from anywhere is still not really ready for prime time. We keep trying to force it and inject it into companies that have been in offices for many years, expecting it to magically work without the big solutions in place. Again, the reason that they lack confidence is because they're just not seeing those solutions. So we must finally resolve these three in particular: the tools we use, the connections we form, and the spaces that we work in. Because the only way that you climb out of the trough of disillusionment is by building the right solutions. VR, for example, is going through this right now, really trying to figure out how to build the right solution. So we have to build the same thing, the right tools, the right connections, the right spaces. So let's dive into each of these. First is tools. So we have to start building tools that just make in-person essentially irrelevant to the conversation, that make location irrelevant to the conversation. We have to build tools that are going to start guaranteeing success, that are going to finally solve these big challenges that companies have. Let's take a classic example. This is what every CEO is saying right now. Collaboration, it is just too hard to do remotely. When you talk to them about, well, what does that even mean? What is collaboration? They'll say, well, we just got to get everybody around a table again in a room and magically invent the future together. But that's not necessarily collaboration. That's just a meeting. That's just human beings in a physical space. That doesn't guarantee anything is going to happen. They could just sit there and talk about NFTs all day for all we know. And so when you really dive into it with them, what they really mean is that, well, it's easier to bump into people in an office. And that's the thing we're missing. And I agree, because collaboration is more about a spark of bringing people together. It's about finding and uncovering these opportunities that exist buried in our companies that we don't even know about finding these hidden overlaps between team members, between teams. It's questions like, how do we get an event organizer to talk more with a sales manager when they work in silos? And when will they ever come together? How do we make that happen? So let's do an example. So here's Heba, our sales manager. She just came back from a Salesforce event. It was amazing. And she posts this in her little 4-person sales team channel on Slack. It's private. And that's it, right? And, 99.9% of the time, a post like that, as we all know, gets a couple likes, evaporates into the ether. And that's because we are really good at locking away knowledge in our companies, remote or otherwise. We are really good at hiding knowledge in DMs, in private channels, in phone calls, here in person. We are very good at this. And yet the events team or the marketing team would love to know what happened at this conference. What inspiration can they take from things that happened there? Now, the good news is my friend T800, who I met in the future, he's a fantastic guy, he has come up with really the next level of collaboration. And what AI will help us do in the future is really serve as a collective brain, something that is aware of everything happening across all of the different apps and tools and things that we use. And so that brain is going to be able to see the opportunities we don't see right now. It's going to see those overlaps. It's going to connect the dots we never connected before. It's going to connect a few ideas into bigger ideas. And so, for example, in the future, AI would have brought the event organizer and the sales manager together, would have said, hey, Heba just went to this amazing Salesforce event. I just scheduled a donut for you guys. Because I don't want to just bump into anyone in the hallway. I want to bump into people that are actually going to give me a valuable conversation. And so the other thing about AI is we can't forget that it can collaborate as well. We're seeing this with Miro right now, for example. It'll generate sticky notes around your sticky notes, come up with ideas with you. And let's say they have their meeting and they decide, oh, that Salesforce mascot looked really cool. Maybe we should create one. So they make a sticky note. And in the future, you'll be able to just click through to that, and AI will collaborate with you. It'll start giving you options of mascots that you could create for your company. It will inspire you. Like, it'll just pull AI Mark Benioff from Salesforce into the conversation, and he'll explain to you the strategy behind it. This was an amazing conversation to have with ChatGPT making this slide, by the way. And even better, I pulled in Steve Jobs. Why not? Let's have him do the counterpoint. And it's going to allow you to do things. And maybe it's going to know your roster. It's going to know, hey, you don't have a DEI expert. Let's make sure there's DEI expertise. So it can just spin up an expert and help give you some more advice. It's also going to know about history. It's going to know what has happened across all of your different tools and apps in the past. So it might know an old Trello thread, for example, where there were already mascot attempts made, and here's the things that you should avoid. It's going to know everything. And so ultimately, hopefully we start pulling in the marketing team, we start pulling in the CEO. Next thing you know, we've invented the next Ronald McDonald, all from a Slack message that had 2 likes in a private channel. And so again, AI will serve as this collective brain that knows everything that's going on across all of the things that we are doing, a brain that sees opportunities, that connects dots like never before, and is doing it in 24/7. Every action you put into Todoist, every call that you have and transcript that comes from that, every discussion you have on Slack, it is 24/7 looking with every input you do, looking for opportunities to connect people together. And we're going to ultimately look back at, huddling around a table as archaic, slow, and inefficient, as opposed, just hoping and praying that new ideas magically happen because we're physically in a room, and chance encounters in hallways will magically make innovation happen, as opposed to having this AI sort of collective brain that helps guide us and create opportunity. And so again, we have to just start making in-person irrelevant to the conversation, location irrelevant to the conversation, moving away from this idea that offices facilitate success to our tools facilitate success, and our tools are with us wherever we go. Same goes for something like this idea that young workers today are lacking mentorship. How can we facilitate success for them? The great thing about AI as well, it can help mentor us in real time as we are using all of our different apps and tools. How's it going to do that? Well, AI will know your handbook, for example, right? It's going to know your culture and values. It's going to know your style guide, your brand voice. It's going to know literally everything about your company. And every app then will be looking for opportunities as people work to help mentor them to work in the way that your company needs to work. So whether that's teaching someone about your culture, maybe I write, "Hey, Jim, your design sucks." It's going to remind me, we actually have a supportive culture here. Try this approach instead. Or whether it's teaching someone about your brand as they're using Figma, or whether it's teaching someone about some misstep in a process you have documented, or teaching someone about code that doesn't meet the team's standards, or about courses that other people in your position have taken before and that helped them get promoted. Every app will be looking for opportunities at all times to mentor you, to help guide you, and specifically for your organization. And if all else fails, it's going to know to escalate, to introduce a human buddy if needed, someone that can do that more human-to-human mentorship. Maybe someone keeps missing deadlines. Maybe someone keeps getting their work rejected. It's going to introduce them to someone who doesn't miss deadlines, someone who does get their work approved, because it knows these things. If all else fails, there's mentorship platforms as well that continue to expand and get better and better and will continue to expand. Or if all else fails, you can just spin up an AI mentor. You want Gary Vee to mentor you today? You can do that. Managers also are they currently desperately need mentorship as well because they're doing some weird stuff. This is weird. Also weird that's happening, but these are tools that aren't exactly facilitating success. These are tools that are just substitutes for actually setting and enforcing expectations. Greatest example of all time from last week. Who recognizes this guy? Oh yeah. 28% on Glassdoor, great rating. He forced RTO after his employees didn't open their laptops for an entire month. And that was their fault. That's not work from anywhere's fault. That is what happens when you never set expectations or hold anyone accountable. And so again, our tools have to get into the equation and start facilitating the success. We can't just rely on managers to do this anymore. So AI often already is starting to manage for us. You can actually have all of your customer support tickets flow into an AI that will then create sprint cycles. It'll make tickets. It'll assign them out to people. It'll hold people accountable. This is already happening. It's also going to start analyzing every message that a manager sends to ensure we are facilitating success. So in the same way that, when you're using Grammarly, it starts kind of helping you write better in real time. Same idea is going to happen. If a manager starts writing, "Hey, can you send me a report?" What does that mean? How long should the report be? Do you have examples of past reports that you want it to look like? I can generate examples for you. Is there a deadline for this report? We need to get expectations to finally be clear, and the AI can help managers clarify what they write. It's also going to help them enforce accountability finally. It's going to know that Jim missed that deadline that it set, and it's going to start asking for an update for you to ensure that that actually happens so that people don't just sit at home with their laptop closed for a month. It's also going to escalate as needed. Missed another deadline. Okay, I've scheduled a one-on-one for you with that person. The other cool thing is that AI is going to learn about us during onboarding, right? It's going to get to know our work style. And so maybe Jim isn't such a bad guy. Maybe he's just burned out or something like that. Or maybe he's sensitive to critical feedback, so we have to be careful when we're having those conversations with him. And so it's going to mentor managers on how to have conversations and help them through that. But again, maybe he's not such a bad guy. Maybe he's burned out. Maybe, AI has noticed that his tone has been changing in recent conversations. Or maybe his surveys indicate that he's actually burned out. Maybe that's why he isn't delivering. It's going to help mentor and teach managers on reasons why these things are happening, rather than just say, you're the worst employee ever, go away. If it finds out he's burned out, it's going to know about him. It's going to know that he likes to travel to kind of deal with his burnout. And it can literally just book a getaway trip for him. This is a thing that can happen today. And so we have to build our tools to start facilitating success. These are just a few examples of ways that we can do this. And we have to really try to aim for, how do we guarantee success? How do we guarantee that we can make sure to hold people accountable, for example? And the beauty of this is it's going to free up managers to actually focus on leadership, to do the things they're supposed to do, align people to a mission, create and drive vision, all the things that AI could never do authentically anyway. So again, build tools that make in-person irrelevant, make location irrelevant, that facilitate success, and that start solving these big challenges. Because really the only way you climb out, again, of the trough is starting to build the right solutions. And those solutions can take many, many years, as we've seen. But there are startups starting to pop up, like Butter, like Juno, Almanac I met last night, phenomenal company, proving that we can actually solve these big challenges. And that's the exciting part. We're starting to see startups that are crazy enough to actually change everything, like Butter's CEO here, who actually covered himself in butter on LinkedIn. We need a bit more of this if we're going to finally start breaking boundaries. Second thing we need, better connections. We have to start uniting and energizing our people in new ways. Young workers should not feel isolated and lonely today. And I know this because, again, I was CEO of a company where it was primarily young people, average age 20 to 30, 99% happiness, 4.9 on Glassdoor, and no one ever felt lonely. And that's because things like socializing, for example, it comes in many forms. Offices aren't the only way to socialize in life. More and more services are going to continue to emerge that help us get people connecting. Great example for young people is co-living. Not just young people, of course, but especially. Things like Selena, Common, Flow just got hundreds of millions of investment, and it gives you this idea of instant friends anywhere you are in the world. You can find a space like this, co-work with people, co-live together. Or you can just host your own version of this. We would just rent out a mansion in a random country every month. Anyone could go there, co-work, co-live, explore together. Worked really well for young folks. Remote Year does this a bit more facilitated. You can do it on 1-month journeys, 12-month journeys. They'll organize everything. This helps, again, guarantee success, because we all know what it's like when a 21-year-old starts nomading for the first time. It doesn't always end so well. Same idea with year-long cruises that now exists. I mean, it's going to keep getting better and better. We have apps that are coming out that allow us to quickly, easier than something like meetup.com, that's more of a quick, easy way to find friends locally that have shared interests. We need more and more of these. Bit more controversial, but we're starting to see company towns come back. This idea is where a company, like a big company, will actually make a town, a city, and start providing affordable housing for young people, have bars, social groups there, have trainings there, maybe for mentorship. Elon Musk is already building one of these in Texas right now, so whether you like this idea or not, it will be in the future. And, people might say, well, yeah, that's great for young people, but the rest of us just don't feel like a team anymore. So we're going back to the office. It's the only way to solve this. But we have to start realizing, look, feeling like a team isn't dependent on, happy hours. It isn't dependent on if we have a water cooler next to us, or if we have a shared location that we are at. Just ask anybody who has anyone who has played a multiplayer game online. You will never feel more part of a team than that, and there's no shared location at all. And so the future is about something I call this unity from anywhere model, and it's about trying to learn as much as we can from sports teams who have actually solved this for many years. Because the amazing thing about sports teams, you can be anywhere on earth, Lisbon, for example, and feel part of a sports team. And that is because of how they craft the fan experience. And what we start to realize about team unity is it's not about where we are, it's about having these sort of exclusive shared traditions. It's about creating this sort of exclusive shared world that we can be a part of, that we feel was made just for us. I'll give you an example. Digitally, ways we can do this. Exclusive team emojis. You can go on Fiverr and for $5, get all of your traditions converted into emojis. And that's a huge way to feel connected to each other. We would do emotes, right? Like, we would raise our arms like this to say we are X team. We could do this online in an event. We could do this physically when we met together. And it always was a way to signal to each other that we're part of something bigger. Same idea, apparel, exclusive team apparel. Just like a sports team has jerseys, you got to have apparel that makes you feel, again, connected to something bigger. And then once you have the apparel, send them out on exclusive quests. Maybe your values are giving back to the world. Head out with your jersey on and go do something good in the world. Bring it back, share it on Slack. And again, it reinforces this idea of unity. We would, anytime we want to celebrate something, we would do it in big style and exclusive way, like an online concert that we would do. We would then physically do it together, come together at a retreat. But don't just do any retreat. Don't just do a hotel. Do something that reinforces team unity, that reinforces the values. We were big geeks. Had to be a castle, right? Make exclusive bragging rights. Maybe it's you're going to go win an award. Maybe it's you're going to do some great innovation. For us, it was making our own albums, making our own virtual worlds we could explore together. It was something to brag about, just like sports teams do. And so the ultimate goal is to hear people start saying, man, this feels like our own little world that was made just for us. And so that is where unity really comes from, creating this sort of exclusive shared world that feels like it was made for you. And so we have to build more services in the future to help companies create these exclusive shared worlds, right? And we, whether it's an apparel company or retreat companies or all these different things that can allow us to create that unity. And eventually we can finally put to rest. My goodness, I've spent 15 years of my life trying to put this to rest, but we will finally put it to rest once we have those services in place, that team unity can't be built online. Third thing we need, better spaces. We have to start finally putting purpose into the spaces that we have, the physical spaces. Because a big thing about hybrid and why it drives resentment is because you're sending me back to a space that has literally no purpose. What is going to be achieved 3 days a week? I don't know, but I hate coming here. And this only gets harder to answer as tools start to solve the collaboration question, as socializing gets solved in other ways. But there will be some work from anywhere companies in the future that do have physical spaces, but they will be rooted in purpose. Give you an example. Possibly, there we go. For example, like a first month onboarding center. You might build a space that is decked out with murals everywhere that reinforce team unity, that allow you to come there and get your jersey. Maybe it's a co-living experience for the first month of your onboarding. This is a purposeful space. You might have a studio like Dropbox has, again, decked out in team unity on the walls, and a very focused space just for maybe project kickoffs, things like that. I think culture museums are a fascinating thing. This is Riot Games. They do League of Legends. And you go to their office in LA, the second you walk in, you are met with these amazing statues from their video game characters, fan art on the walls, their employees' kids' fan art on the walls. They even have a cafe that's mimicked after a bar in their TV show. And these kinds of spaces, they're a place you want to go to, you look forward to go to because they give you energy. You can take selfies. You feel that brand connection. You feel part of that team unity vibe again. We're also seeing this kind of baked into what's called an experience center now. It's a space where you can have trainings, you can have product demos, you can co-work together, you can have a culture museum, etc. So again, we're building more and more spaces here. Airbnb is going to start to make it a lot easier to finally just book a retreat with one button. You'll get the beautiful view, you'll get the whiteboard, you'll get the great seating, you'll get the stocked fridge, the private chef in one click. That's where we need to get to. The most important space of all, of course, is the four walls that we have at home, and we need to make that space better. And look, it's not easy, right? You never know who's going to charge in behind you. Best thing about the future, though, they have this amazing new technology called locks. And it's great. You put it on a door, you just turn it, literally blocks out everyone. You can have the best Zoom meetings ever. But we're also going to keep reimagining homes for the work from anywhere era. We're going to have dedicated focus spaces built in from the start. We're going to have pro backdrops built in from the start. Solid ceiling lighting, please, built in from the start. Layouts that don't have people walking around behind us from the start. Layouts that even allow us to convert our office into a playroom if we need to. Maybe our space isn't that big. Just going to keep that one up there. If anyone wants to help that make happen. All right, VR is also going to be a big game changer for work from home as well. I know VR is very controversial today, but there will come a time where I can literally just put on my glasses like that, and I am in any world I want to be in. And that's going to help us with better empathy in working together and seeing those emotions more clearly. It's going to be better for collaboration. The whiteboarding that exists in the Oculus right now is actually quite good. It feels very natural. It's going to give us opportunities for, again, more team unity, the ability to make apparel and products and items that we can use to reinforce team unity from anywhere. More energizing spaces that we can go to have maybe a rock concert together. You can deck out the walls with that team unity again. I think what blows my mind the most is AI-generated environments. You can do this today. You can literally say, I want to work with corn on my walls, if you wanted to do that. Or maybe you want to work in a medieval village for the day. You can literally do that. And this is going to allow you to really work in any space that you need that day to do your best work. Or imagine having synced environments with your team, where someone gets to vote every week on, what crazy world you're going to work in that week together, and again, reinforce team unity. And as Jason Silva says, AI really challenges us to dream bigger than ever. And I think that's what excites me most about working from home in the future, is the ability to work literally anywhere we dream. Now, there was one last stop I took on my time travel journey, and not into the future, but rather into the past, to 1906, a very different time. It was also the rise of the automobile. It was a time of chaos, much like we're living through today. It was a time when nothing was figured out yet, just like today. There were no lanes, there were no highways yet, there were no gas stations, there were no stoplights, there was none of what cars rely on today to facilitate success. People, cars, trolleys, horses were all competing for the road. Check out this guy, he almost gets hit by a horse, then he almost gets hit by a car, then he almost gets hit by a trolley. This was life, and this is kind of what it feels like living today, with all of these competing solutions for how we can work. And yet what emerged from this chaos changed everything. Cars gave humanity freedom like never before, to go anywhere, to discover new places, to access more jobs, to have more time with loved ones. This is sounding familiar. To have freedom like never before. And so, yes, this is chaos we are living through right now. Mouse jigglers and the madness of hybrid and the spying on employees, this is all very chaotic and disturbing. But this is also normal. When a new age of freedom is upon us, chaos is unfortunately normal. And also, unfortunately, chaos takes time. This went on for 25 years, trying to dodge the solutions that were competing all the time. And the reality is, we haven't built all the lanes yet. We haven't built all the highways. We haven't built all the stoplights. We haven't transformed the world around us into the world we need it to be yet. We as a community are not done yet. We still must build these tools, these connections, and these spaces that are going to allow globally to start facilitating success for work. And so my goal today was not to magically reveal the future to you. My goal was to inspire it. Because the future is not defined by any time travel journey. It is not defined by the graphs and the hyperbole you read on LinkedIn every day, by the media headlines, by the chaos of today. It is defined by what you all choose to do, by what you all choose to build, by the blood, sweat, and butter that we all put in as a community. There was someone who stood on a stage just like this 100 years ago and said, nothing will replace the horse, until millions of people rose up and changed everything. Never in my life have I seen so much effort on making work better. And together we will build that better future of work. We are the builders of tomorrow. We are the ones who are going to build the roads that get us to that future. We are the road pavers of our era. We are the stoplight builders of our time. We are the builders of tomorrow. Building the foundations that are going to change everything all over again. Paving the way for how people are going to work 100 years from now. What an opportunity. And to quote the great Walt Whitman, the powerful play goes on. The chaos of today will go on, but you all may contribute a verse. And it is knowing that, seeing all of you here, standing room only, seeing this conference grow year after year, that gives me the hope that the best is still yet to come. Thank you all.
We don't have too much time for audience questions, but I want to ask a question.
Sure.
Where the hell do I start? I mean, I think that's what's on everyone's mind, right? The possibilities are absolutely endless, but for myself, for my business, what do I do today?
Yes, I think, and that's why I think things like AI are very exciting. This kind of superhuman power to start creating and building immediately. But I think it's starting to, when you read something on LinkedIn, when you see the complaints, when you see this or that, start looking for how can you contribute? How can you make that better? Had amazing discussions last night with companies that are building tools already to start solving these bigger challenges. But we cannot continue to get comfortable, to accept that, hey, look, Zoom's going to figure this out, because they're not. We have to do it. We have to be like these new startups that are going to drive things forward. And so let's start finding those opportunities. I've given you 20 startups you can build tomorrow if you want. And let's start actually trying to build this future together.
Amazing. You're one of the most fascinating individuals to talk to on this topic here at the conference. Ryan Chartrand. Give it up for him, everybody.
Thank you.